Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tiriyat Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhaktasena Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Prahlad Maharaj, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu. Text number 6 onwards. Shri Narad Uvacha Shrutva Putra Giro Daitya Parapaksha Samahita Jahasa Buddhir Balanam Bindate Parabuddhivi. So as we know, Hiranyakashipu once just lifted his little boy Prahlad, put him on his lap, and very lovingly asked, what is the best thing you learned? And Prahlad Maharaj, being a Mahabhagavat, he says, O best of the Asuras, king of the demons, as far as I have learned from my spiritual master, any person who has accepted a temporary body and temporary household life is certainly embarrassed by anxiety because of having fallen in a dark well where there is no water but only suffering. One should give up this position and go to the forest. More clearly, one should go to Vrindavan, where only Krishna consciousness is prevalent, and should thus take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Narad Muni is now saying what happened. Narad Muni continued. When Prahlad Maharaj spoke about the path of self-realization in devotional service, thus being faithful to the camp of his father's enemies, Hiranyakashipu, the king of the demons, heard Prahlada's words and laughingly said, this is the intelligence of children spoiled by the words of the enemy. So right now he's laughing because, oh, little boy, what nonsense he's talking. What is this all gibberish? But later he will get really angry. Hiranyakashipu, being a demon, would always consider Lord Vishnu and his devotees to be his enemies. Therefore, the word Parapaksha, on the side of the enemy, is used here. Hiranyakashipu never agreed with the words of Vishnu or Krishna. Rather, he was angered by the intelligence of a Vaishnava. Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja, give up all other duties and surrender unto me. But demons like Hiranyakashipu never agree to do this. Therefore, Krishna says, Namam Dushkritino Muda. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. The Asur Bhav, the atheistic nature, is directly represented by Hiranyakashipu. Such persons, being Mula and Naradham, fools and rascals, the lowest of men, would never accept Vishnu as supreme and surrender to him. Hiranyakashipu naturally became increasingly angry that his son Prahlad was being influenced by the camp of the enemies. He therefore asked that saintly persons like Narad not be allowed within the residential quarters of his son, for otherwise Prahlad would be further spoiled by Vaishnava instructions. So he didn't want Prahlad to get all this Vaishnava instructions, Vaishnava association. So he pretty much stopped everything. No saintly persons allowed in the area. And this is how he didn't like that Prahlad, what is this happening? That Prahlad is getting the association of my enemies? How is he learning all this? Samyag vidharyatam balo guru gehe dvijatibhi Vishnu paksha prati channer na bhidyate tasya dhiryata. Hiranyakashipu advised his assistants, my dear demons, give complete protection to this boy at the Gurukul, where he is instructed so that his intelligence will not be further influenced by Vaishnavas, who may go there in disguise. so, so even Hiranyakashipu was afraid of the devotees that they might be spoiling my child. But he didn't know the child was already taken care of by Narad Muni. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the tactic of dressing oneself like an ordinary karmi is necessary because everyone in the demoniac kingdom is against the Vaishnava teachings. Krishna consciousness is not at all to the liking of the demons of the present age. As soon as they see a Vaishnava dressed in saffron garments with beads on his neck and tilak on his forehead, they are immediately irritated. They criticize the Vaishnavas by sarcastically saying Hare Krishna, and some people also chant Hare Krishna sincerely. In either case, since Hare Krishna is absolute, whether one chants it jokingly or sincerely, it will have its effect. The Vaishnavas are pleased when the demons chant Hare Krishna because this shows that the Hare Krishna movement is taking ground. The great demons like Hiranyakashipu are always prepared to chastise the Vaishnavas, and they try to make arrangements so that Vaishnavas will not come to sell their books and preach Krishna consciousness. Thus, what was done by Hiranyakashipu long, long ago is still being done. That is a way of materialistic life. Demons or materialists do not at all like the advancement of Krishna consciousness, and they try to hinder it in many ways. Yet the preachers of Krishna consciousness must go forward in the Vaishnava dress or any other dress for the purpose of preaching. Chanakya Pandit says that if an honest person deals with a great cheater, it is necessary for him to become a cheater also, not for the purpose of cheating, but to make his preaching successful. So yes, even in ISKCON, in early days, devotees, because they were mostly, not mostly, all of them were brahmacharis, they're living in the temple. So hardly wear anything except dhoti kurta, but sometimes for preaching purposes, they would put on pant shirt or suit, because otherwise they would not get the entrance. But now society has pretty much opened up. So the devotees, even if they go in dhoti kurta or in pant shirt, they are always welcome. But sometimes when they go to preach in colleges, they have to put on pant shirt. But that's okay for preaching purposes. But this is what Chanakya Pandit says, and Prabhupada quotes him. If an honest person deals with a great cheater, it is necessary for him to become a cheater also, not for the purpose of cheating, but to make his preaching successful. But at the same time, one has to be very careful. Careful in the sense that we don't want association of those people that we're going to preach. We want to give our association to them. So we should not get influenced. And many times, devotees have taken this thing to an extreme, not just the dress, but the dealings. And then the negative effects also happen, just like many examples are there, but I'm just trying to think what's a correct example. I mean, we don't want to go sit with people in bars or if they are smoking just to think that we can preach. We are not at that level. We might get distracted. So there are plenty of people to preach to so that we don't get distracted. Just like when I had just come in contact with ISKCON in Dallas. So in Dallas, devotees every Saturday night would go to Harinam And there are not too many devotees. We would be only like 6, 7 of us. Go to Harinam in the downtown area, where there were all restaurants and pubs and bars, and people would be outside drunk and doing all sorts of nonsense. And in the middle of all this, we would go on a Harinam, chant and dance. So, so sometimes we would meet some people who would be crazy and they would try to pick a fight. But good thing about here is, at least if the police is there, they would not do anything nonsense. so that then many times we find people who are sitting and eating whatever non-veg they are eating, but when they hear chanting of Hare Krishna, they would at least get up or welcome or dance for a while, or at least smile. So at least they were getting some mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. But regardless, Sankirtan and chanting and preaching has to go on. Grihimanitam ahuya prahadam datyayajaka prashasya lakshmaya vacha samprichanta samabhi. When Hiranyakashipu's servants brought the boy Prahlad back to the Gurukul, the place where the Brahmins taught the boys, the priests of the demons, Chanda and Amar, pacified him. With very mild voices and affectionate words, they inquired from him as follows. So actually, Hiranyakashipu, when he saw Prahlad, the kind of instructions he gave and the kind of philosophy he had, so he was upset with Chanda and Amarka, that what kind of teachings is going on? Who has infiltrated our Gurukul and is giving this kind of instructions to my son? So Chanda and Amarka, first they tried to find out very affectionately from Prahlad, who is teaching you all this? Chanda and Amarka, the priests of the demons, were eager to know from Prahlad Maharaj who the Vaishnavas were that came to instruct him in Krishna consciousness. The purpose was to discover the names of these Vaishnavas. In the beginning, they did not threaten the boy because when threatened, he might not identify the real culprits. Therefore, they very mildly and peacefully inquired as follows. So they wanted to use all the 4 processes, Sam, Dam, Danda, Bhed, to get the information out. Vatsaprahad Bhadram te Satyam Kathayama Mrisha Balanati Kutastubhyam Esha Buddhi Viparyaya. Dear son Prahlad, all peace and good fortune unto you. Kindly do not speak lies, just reply with the truth. These boys you see are not like you, for they do not speak in a deviant way. How have you learned these instructions? How has your intelligence been spoiled in this way? So this was really surprising for Chanda and Amar, that no other boy was like this. So how come this is the only boy who's acting like this? Prahlad Maharaj was still a boy, and therefore his teachers thought that if they pacified the little boy, he would immediately speak the truth, revealing the secret of how the Vaishnavas came there to teach him lessons in devotional service. It was surprising, of course, that in the same school, the other boys of the Daityas were not polluted. Only Prahlad Maharaj was supposedly polluted by the instructions of the Vaishnavas. The main duty of the teachers was to inquire who those Vaishnavas were that came to teach Prahlad and spoil his intelligence. So according to demons, it was Prahlada's intelligence that was spoiled. But they didn't understand it was their intelligence that was spoiled actually. Buddhi bheda parakrit utaho te swato abhavat bhanyatam shrotu kamanam gurunam kulanandana. O best of your family, has this pollution of your intelligence been brought about by you or by the enemies? We are all your teachers and are very eager to hear about this. Please tell us the truth. Prahlad Maharaj's teachers were astonished that a small boy could speak such exalted Vaishnava philosophy. Therefore, they inquired about the Vaishnavas who stealthily taught it to him, in order that these Vaishnavas might be arrested and killed in the presence of Prahlada's father, Hiranyakashipu. So they were trying their best, and in the beginning they were just speaking very mildly, very affectionately, very sweetly to get the information. Shri Prahlad Vacha Parashvashchetya Asadgraha Punsam Yan Mayaya Krita Vimohit Dhyam Drishtas Tasmai Bhagavate Namaha. Prahlad Maharaj replied, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of God, whose external energy has created the distinctions of my friend and my enemy by deluding the intelligence of men. Indeed, I'm now actually experiencing this, although I have previously heard of it from authoritative sources. Here are his teachers who are trying to get the information, and they're saying, how come you're getting all this knowledge from our enemy camp? And what Prahlad Maharaj says, look at my Supreme Lord. His Maya, his external energy, has created this distinction from my friend and my enemy, and it has deluded the intelligence of men. So indirectly he's saying, it has deluded your intelligence, my teachers. What are you talking about? As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinay Sampanne, the humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Pandita, those who are actually learned, the equipoised, advanced devotees who have full knowledge of everything, do not see any living entity as an enemy or friend. So basically, he's trying to tell the teachers, you're not Pandit. You're in Pandit in name only. Because Pandit, you should not see as an enemy or a friend. Instead, with broader vision, they see that everyone is part of Krishna, as confirmed by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. Every living entity being part of the Supreme Lord is meant to serve the Lord, just as every part of the body is meant to serve the whole body. As servants of the Supreme Lord, all living entities are one, but a Vaishnava, because of his natural humility, addresses every other living entity as Prabhu. A Vaishnava sees other servants to be so advanced that he has much to learn from them. Thus he accepts all other devotees of the Lord as Prabhu's masters. Although everyone is a servant of the Lord, one Vaishnava servant, because of humility, sees other servant as his master. Understanding of the master begins from understanding of the spiritual master. Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasada. So Vaishnava sees other servants to be so advanced that he has much to learn from. That is Krishna consciousness. That is a Vaishnava mentality. Thus he accepts all other devotees of the Lord as Prabhus or masters. But here, what is our vision is we try to find faults with everybody. Everybody is wrong, according to us. Because we want more respect than them. We think we are better than everybody. So we want more respect. But this is not the way a Vaishnava behaves. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Further, Prabhupada says the spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna. The spiritual master, the servant of God, is engaged in the most confidential service of the Lord, namely delivering all the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya, in which one thinks this person is my enemy and that one is my friend. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a friend of all living entities, and all living entities are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. Oneness is possible through this understanding, not through artificially thinking that every one of us is God and equal to God. The true understanding is that God is a Supreme Master, and all of us are servants of the Supreme Lord and are therefore on the same platform. This had already been taught to Prahlad Maharaj by his spiritual master Narad Muni. But Prahlad was nonetheless surprised by how a bewildered soul thinks one person his enemy and another his friend. And this is the job of Maya. When we are in Maya, we think one who helps me in my sense gratification is my best friend. And one who does not, one who puts obstacles in it, or one who tries to take away things from me that I'm supposed to enjoy, is my enemy number one. And this is what goes on in every species of life. But Vaishnava doesn't think that way. Such a beautiful thought. As long as one adheres to the philosophy of duality, thinking one person a friend and another an enemy, he should be understood to be in the clutches of Maya. The Mayavadi philosopher who thinks that all living entities are God and are therefore one is also mistaken. No one is equal to God. The servant cannot be equal to the master. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, the master is one and the servants are also one. But the distinction between the master and servant must continue even in the liberated stage. In the conditioned stage, we think that some living entities are our friends, whereas others are enemies. And thus, we are in duality. In the liberated stage, however, the conception is that God is a master and that all living entities, being servants of God, are one. Of course, we can say, well, there is also sometimes fights or arguments between cowherd boys or gopas or gopis, but they don't think that other person is my enemy. Then enmity is not there. Argument can be there. The difference of opinion can be there. But in everybody's heart, there's only one basic theme: how to serve Krishna, how to make Krishna happy. That's all. So difference of opinion is different than being enemy. स यदानुवृता पुंसां पशु बुद्धिर्विभिद्यते अन्य एष तथान्यो अहम् इति भेदगता sati. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a Pandit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks every one of us is an eternal servant of God, and therefore we are not different from one another. When Prahlad Maharaj's teachers and demoniac father asked him how his intelligence had been polluted, Prahlad Maharaj said, "As far as I am concerned, my intelligence has not been polluted. Rather, by the grace of my spiritual master and by the grace of my Lord Krishna, I have now learned that no one is my enemy and no one is my friend." And actually, this is, we studied earlier how The teachers wanted to teach him politics and economy, and it was all about enemy and friends. And Prahlad Maharaj just could not distinguish. We are all actual eternal servants of Krishna, but under the influence of the external energy, we think that we are separately situated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead as friends and enemies of one another. This mistaken idea has now been corrected, and therefore, unlike ordinary human beings, I no longer think that I am God and that others are my friends and enemies. Now I am rightly thinking that everyone is an eternal servant of God and that our duty is to serve the Supreme Master. For then we shall stand on the platform of oneness as servants. Very, very high level of consciousness. It's a long purport and we are running out of time, so I would request everybody to go through this. There are 4 or 5 paragraphs. But towards the end, we can say, we can read that. Everyone should be allowed to render service to the Lord to the best of his ability, and everyone should appreciate the service of others. Such are the activities of Vaikuntha. Since everyone is a servant, everyone is on the same platform and is allowed to serve the Lord according to his ability. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, giving dictation according to the attitude of the servant. However, the Lord gives different dictations to the non-devotees and devotees. Non-devotees challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord, and therefore the Lord dictates in such a way that the non-devotees forget the Lord's service, life after life, and are punished by the laws of nature. But when a devotee very sincerely wants to render service to the Lord dictates in a different way. So it's all about our desire, how we want to approach the Lord, how we want to deal with him. Non-devotees, they don't want to serve him. They just want to be equal to him, or they just want to kill him, just like Hiranyakashipu was trying. So the Lord gives him that kind of intelligence. Okay. Mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. If you want to forget me, here it is. I'll make the arrangements. As Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Everyone is actually a servant, not an enemy or friend, and everyone is working in different directions from the Lord, who directs each living entity according to his mentality. But he is still waiting for everybody to come back to him. And that is his mercy. So anyway, we'll stop here. See if anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri